This is Sky News with Anna Jones.
Hello, very good afternoon. The High Court has ruled that government consultations on compensating those affected by the proposed HS2 high-speed rail scheme was so unfair as to be unlawful. It was one of 10 legal challenges put forward by campaigners against the plans, but the judge dismissed all the other 9. The government says the loss on the compensation case won't affect the HS2 construction timetable in any way.
This has been a convincing victory for the government. The judge has given us the green light to go ahead with High Speed 2, subject to the necessary parliamentary approvals. Of course, we understand and accept the judgment that the judge has made with regard to the process for consulting on compensation. We will look at that closely. We will not appeal against it. We will rerun the compensation consultations.
The decision of the judge basically on compensation is fundamental. There's something like 300,000 people whose lives and businesses are blighted all the way up the line between here and the north. And now they're actually going to have to rerun the compensation consultation because they fundamentally ignored the whole weight of response from that. Tens of thousands of people wanted a fair compensation scheme, and the government went for a scheme that was supported by only 21 people. So that was absolutely bizarre, and the government has been found flawed on that.
Let's cross live to the High Court. Sky's Enda Brady is there for us. So, Enda, what impact will this ruling have on the government's plans for this rail line?
Well, the government says it will have absolutely no impact whatsoever. They say they will not lose 1 minute in terms of any delay on the project. They say this is very much the green light from the highest level, from a High Court judge. There were 10 challenges brought by the campaign groups today. 9 of those were dismissed, and the one that was upheld was to do with compensation. And the government says it will now run the consultation process on compensation all over again. It was judged to be unlawful inside court today by Mr. Justice Ousley. So campaigners say that this is hugely significant for them, but ultimately I've spoken to the Rail Minister Simon Burns this morning, and he says this is the green light, full steam ahead, and he said work will begin on the project. He says not 1 minute will be lost. We can take a look now at the proposed route for phase 1 of the project. This is it. The line would start at Euston in central London. It would head up northwest, going past Buckingham, Brackley, Leamington Spa and Coventry, before splitting and finishing in Lichfield and Birmingham. Now, the second phase, the line to Lichfield, would then be extended up to Manchester, going past Stoke-on-Trent and Crewe on the way as well. But a line would also have been built up to Leeds, with Nottingham and Sheffield en route. Phase 1 is what was contested here at the High Court today. Let's bring in one of the campaign leaders now, Emma Crane from HS2 Action Alliance. Emma, your reaction to what has happened here today?
Well, it's a great victory. We've won our judicial review against the government on compensation, and for people, the hundreds of thousands of people who live up and down the line, this is a great victory. The court held that the compensation consultation was so unfair as to be unlawful, so it's going to be rerun, and we very much hope that the government will use this as an opportunity to treat people fairly, do the right thing for ordinary house owners, and just treat people fairly.
But the government says this is the green light, and they will continue with the project and work will begin.
Well, we don't agree that this is a green light. We're appealing our other case, which is the environmental case. So it's just the next stage of the process. We've got a good case for appeal. We've been given leave to appeal today. We're not going to stop this fight. It's a hugely flawed project, and we want the government to listen, to actually look into this and listen and see sense on this.
You're based in Buckinghamshire. You've been on the phone non-stop pretty much since the verdict came in. What's the reaction from people in the community?
Well, ordinary people are just really relieved that the court has listened. The court has seen that the government acted unlawfully. We knew they weren't listening on compensation. You can't just expect people to just sit back and lose value on their houses and not be able to sell. People need to be treated fairly. I mean, the court used all sorts of words like bizarre, odd and sorry saga in relation to this whole process, and the way the Department for Transport have treated people about compensation has been despicable. We very much hope the government's going to think again on this.
So, looking ahead, the campaign groups, what's the game plan from here? More and more appeals and hope that it gets bogged down in the legalities, and that ultimately we'll end up with a new government in 2 years' time that may not have the appetite for a high-speed rail link?
We're certainly going to appeal. I mean, it's not so much about bogging down and trying to delay things, it's more about getting the right decision. We want to see that the government has acted lawfully, not just on compensation, but on the whole project altogether.
What do you say to people who argue that in terms of the economy and the business argument that Britain needs this level of investment in its infrastructure, and that your campaign groups are people, NIMBYs is the phrase that keeps popping up, not in my backyard? What would you say to that?
Well, I would say that's an easy argument to put to us, but I would ask people to actually look into the detail on this, and they'll see that it's a hugely flawed scheme. It's got a terrible business case. If the government really wants to spend, upwards of 33 billion on something, there's so many other things they could spend money on which would actually benefit more people in the UK and actually kickstart the economy in a better way than this will.
Crane from HS2 Action Alliance, thanks for your time today. So the ruling from the High Court Judge, Mr Justice Ousley here today, 10 challenges from the various different campaign groups. It was one of the biggest ever judicial reviews faced by a government. 9 of those challenges were dismissed, and the one that has been upheld with regard to the issue of compensation, the government says it will now run the whole consultation process again from the start.